Okay, we will move on to our, hold on here, to our 7.2 item, consideration of resolution requesting state cannabis cultivation tax reform. And I believe this goes to Carol.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I want to introduce and welcome our tax administrator, Patrick Sullivan, who has prepared this agenda item and will be presenting it to you today. Go ahead, Patrick. Thank you.
Morning, Board. So this presentation is regarding the state cannabis cultivation tax reform and the resolution that's before you for your consideration. Just to provide some background, the state taxes cannabis on two different levels. There's a cultivation tax and an excise tax. The cultivation tax is by weight, and it equates to $161.28 a pound. What's happened over the last year is, as market conditions have changed, that price of cannabis that cultivators are getting has fallen. And so that state tax rate is grown disproportionately high, especially compared to where the price of cannabis was when Prop 64 passed. So many cultivators have expressed at both the local and state level a concern that this particular state tax could really lead to the collapse of their business and the industry as a whole. Local industry groups have actually been circulating this resolution that's before you to different cities and counties for each jurisdiction to consider and sent to the state, sort of emphasizing each jurisdiction's support for reform of that cultivation tax measure. There has been support expressed by both the legislative branch and the governor's office. It's been reported that Senator McGuire is working on potential reform. Governor Newsom has indicated he believes that the state cultivation tax should be reformed, but there's no specific proposals out there yet. It still seems to be early in the works, and we don't have any real detail on what they're going to offer. But at this time, local groups have asked that your board consider this resolution and what's in it, which is basically explaining that market drop and how this tax is impacting their business. So at this time, staff's available to answer any further questions you may have on this.
I will open up to the supervisors if you have any questions or comments for staff. Supervisor Sabatier?
So I think that the state definitely is going in the wrong direction, actually increasing it quite a bit. I want to say it's close to 8 to 10% just in the last year or so, as the market has been crashing much more than 50%. And so I want to say that the ask is incomplete. I think we need to ask for greater support for the illicit market. I think that's what's also hurting the industry. I think just looking at taxes is not enough. I think also asking them to completely eradicate the taxes is, in my opinion, a little bit, it feels hypocritical when we look at the next agenda item when we're trying to stay and keep taxing them on the local area. I think that we're not asking what we want to do. I think those are two vastly different things. Yes, the California tax is high and it needs to be lowered. It doesn't make sense with the current format of the industry and the current pricing. But I think that our ask for our community should be similar to what we're asking the state, because if we're not willing to do here what we're asking the state to do, then I don't think that works. I think it needs to make a little bit more reasonable sense as to what we're asking the state to do. So I'll leave it at that and then listen to what the public has to say. I think that there's some benefits to it. I know we see some of those cannabis taxes going towards our sheriff and other things like that. And we're, for example, we're paying for the high definition satellite imagery to be able to keep track of what's happening with our legal grows and use it. I'm really hoping this year it will be utilized to keep track of what's happening with illicit grows. And I want to be able to keep getting some of those funds to be able to help us to have the tools to combat things here locally. And so to ask them to drop it as much as we're asking, and from what I understand, unless I'm incorrect in how I understand it, the way it's written, I think is too much. I think it needs to be dropped drastically, but not negated.
Thank you. Anything further from the supervisors before I open it up to public? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up to public. If we can make sure that we are keeping on topic, that we are on 7.2. We're talking about state taxes and not the next item that we'll be talking about. So if you could come up to the microphone, if you could state your name, and you have 3 minutes, and I'm going to start in the boardroom.
Hello, Board. My name is Richard Durham. I agree. Obviously, some taxes need to be paid to the state on the cultivation. I'll address that also at the next item. But for example, right now, people are offering you $300, $200 a pound, and the tax is $161 or something. That's like ridiculous. If you went to buy a car for $8,000 and they say your taxes on it were $4,000, you'd walk away without a car. So with that, I just think that it has to be thought over. It wasn't thought over. Everybody thought it was going to stay at $1,200 a pound, and that's not the case. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm an owner-operator of Magic Meadow Farms in Middletown. Thank you, Bruno, for getting back to me this past couple weeks. On the state level, I can't speak for anyone else but myself and what I've experienced since I've moved to Lake County, but we do need the money in Lake County. We need, this reformed at the state level, because without the industry's support of our local government, we have no voice at the state. The state needs to understand, how Lake County needs this industry to be lifted up. Unfortunately, most of our time is spent, in the stigmas of water use and not in the stigmas of what having a small business or even any business under 50 employees operates, what goes into it. So I think I agree with Bruno that the ask needs to be defined at the local level with an ad hoc committee that is going to be talked about in the next point in the next agenda topic. But I feel like as a county, we need to come together, and I really feel strongly about this board. I think this board is affiliated with a lot of knowledge and education, and we could come together with a resolution to the state that would actually make a lot of sense, and we could be the leaders, like we were the leaders when cannabis, when we were coming to the table, and I was in those meetings in the beginning. So I feel like at the state level, we need to come together in this next resolution with an ad hoc committee that would put together a resolution, suspend the taxes for now at the county level, at the farm, because we are the only cannabis is the only industry in the entire agricultural community that taxes at the farm. So when we're talking about reforming the taxes, how do we put that structure together? And I'm asking the Board of Supervisors for help with this. How do we put together a committee that we can actually brainstorm? And I've actually laid out, and I talked to Bruno about this, a bunch of tiered approaches for our county that would also put us ahead as the leaders, because we have such an amazing growing region. And I would love to see our county be able to take in the credit of what a beautiful place this is to live. And I'm so happy to be a part of this community, and I would just want to be of service to this industry, because I really feel strongly for it. And I'm hoping that the leaders here could consider a committee that would be put together to put together a better resolution for the state. Tiered cannabis taxes based on the types of businesses that were operating in these use permits. And really, really focalize on producer models and vertically integrated companies and those taxes assimilated to those structures of that business.
Thank you.
Hello, Board. My name is Tyler. Live in Kelseyville with my wife, license holder. I just wanted to say a couple things. I don't know if this is the right topic or this is the right item or the next item.
We're talking about California taxes.
California taxes, yes. Kristen, who just spoke, is one of the most brilliant minds I've ever met in my life. So if there is a committee that you guys work with locally, please include Kristen on the board. I myself would like to help. At the state level, I just wanted to make a comment as far as it's going to be tough. The unions in California, the labor unions are fighting the state on the tax. So all the lobbying money from all the unions across the state are fighting to keep the taxes high. I haven't figured out why, but that's gonna be really tough to overcome the unions. So this county, if there's a way to organize with beautiful minds like Kristen's and focus our energy collectively to make a difference at the state, we need both. We need tax reform on the state level and a local level. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Draper, and I think that this is kind of a urgency issue. I hate to see it have to come back, and I think an ad hoc committee's good, but that takes time. It seems like maybe you could change the resolution now, as what was suggested by Bruno, and go ahead and pass it. Because I don't think we have a lot of time to waste in this, and we need the counties to get the information to the states, to the state as soon as possible. Thank you.
Is there any further comments in the boardroom?
Hi, my name is Helenia, and I agree that Lake County really needs to provide support to lower the taxes to the state because they seem unfair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. I am Christina Torres with Stella Green Farms. I just want to thank your attention to this very unbalanced situation. I, along with other members here, are very willing and happy to help with any type of committees ad hoc going forward in the future to further reform and assess equally taxes at the state and local level. I understand the sense of urgency that Mary Draper also presented because I am a small farmer, completely mom and pop. It is only my husband and I that work our canopy area each and every day of our lives. This is our business. This is everything that we've given into it. And I am required to pay $62,000 in total to local and state entities in order to continue my very small business, self-sustainable, regenerative organic cannabis, in which I'm happy to contribute to the community. However, I appreciate your attention to addressing the reform and urgency of the taxes as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Travis Nito. Thank you for your time. We were asking you to please follow Humboldt and Mendocino's lead in the suspension of the cultivation tax. The cannabis industry is on the verge of total collapse, and the current tax structure in the county and the state are not sustainable for anyone. Immediate action is required, not only at the state level, but also at the county level. If the county accepts this resolution, suspension of the county square foot tax needs to be included. The least the county could do right now would be to postpone the 25% late fee tax that we're all going to incur.
Let's make sure we're staying on topic. We're talking about this
All right.
resolution with California tax.
Sorry, that's it. I kind of bundled it all together.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from the boardroom? See no movement. I see our sheriff would like to speak. Sheriff?
I would, thank you, and I apologize for the blurry camera. I'm not sure what's happening with my webcam. A couple things. I think I'm hearing a lot of what I was thinking from the public comment, and I want to echo what Supervisor Sabatier said about not necessarily eliminating this tax. I think it would be a mistake to eliminate the tax. I don't think there's anybody on your board, and certainly speaking for myself, that doesn't deal with issues related to illicit marijuana cultivation on a daily basis. And I think what's important to remember is that when the legalization aspect came about, it was with the idea that there would be some sort of revenue that would be generated from this to help us combat those people that aren't participating in the legal market. Those monies come from taxes. If the taxes are overburdensome, I would absolutely support a look at getting them to a more manageable level, but simply supporting a complete elimination at this point, I don't think would be the most responsible thing for the county to do. This cultivation tax is, Lake County is a source county. We're with Mendocino, Trinity, Humboldt County, and we produce a lot of cannabis in this county. And in listening to an earlier discussion at the board today, we talked about entities coming in from outside the area and maybe taking advantage of the resources within Lake County to provide services or products for people that aren't within Lake County. Those taxes that are generated from that activity, from this industry, go towards helping us mitigate those issues that come with the illicit crops and help us to get rid of them and, pardon the pun, but to weed them out. So let's take a look at this. If we can modify this, if it is truly urgent, needs to be voted on today, I would strongly recommend that we modify it from a complete elimination of the state cultivation tax to something along the lines of re-examining it and try to adjust it and make it adjustable so we don't have to come back every time the price fluctuates for this product, and maybe make it a percentage of some fair market value as determined by, I don't know, I hate to say an ad hoc committee, but it shouldn't come back every time the price changes, and it needs to continue to have this funding source available for those departments and those entities that deal with those impacts. The people in San Francisco, people in Los Angeles aren't dealing with cultivation. They're not dealing with the environmental crimes. They're not dealing with the human trafficking that goes along with the illicit cultivation. And we are here in Lake County, and those tax dollars in some way need to continue to come so we can continue to provide those services. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, we will now go to the Zoom room, and we will go to Michael Brillo. If you could start with your name, you have 3 minutes, and make sure we're staying on topic.
Great. This is Michael Colbruno. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. First of all, I just want to thank the board and Chair Crandall. I know you were responsive with all you're dealing with your families, so I greatly appreciate it. I want to put a couple things in perspective on this resolution. First of all, I agree that suspension, that or elimination is probably the best route to go because that's actually the legal route to go under Prop 64. The state can suspend but not eliminate. So I think that change to the resolution makes sense. I've had the privilege to talk to folks in the governor's office, the legislature, and the attorney general's office, and they're all in support of this effort. And that is because, let me put a couple things in perspective. The effective tax rate at the end of the day for a cannabis operator in the state of California is 45%. Right across the border in Oregon, it's 17%. And CDFTA just imposed this tax increase, which is mandated under Prop 64, unfortunately, which is what triggered this tax revolt, which is going on statewide. You're seeing this resolution in cities and counties throughout the state. It cost me, I'm in District 1, I have a farm, $350 a pound to produce right now with all my taxes and fees that I have to pay. And as was mentioned earlier by Mr. Durham, the current market rate is $300. So I'm losing $50 a pound for every product I produce right now just because of taxes and regulations. And this is all the state stuff. And to the sheriff's point, what's happening if we don't reform these taxes is a collapse of this industry, which is why this tax revolt is happening. And if you look at the papers, 3 years ago, 60% of the market was unlicensed and untaxed. Today, it is 80%. And why is that? Because people who were licensed and trying to operate in the legal taxed market are going back to the illicit market because it's just not worth it. People who have been in this industry, legacy operators, are losing their farms. The LA Weekly reported of people committing suicide because they've lost everything they own. I can tell you, we are 6 figures in the hole this year because we are paying employees, and we have 26 people we hired out of our own personal pocket because we have made no money because of taxes and fees that are imposed at the state. So this is a crisis. And if the sheriff thinks he has problems now in the illicit market, wait until more and more people move into the illicit market, and it's going to be, the entire industry is going to be outside of the taxed, licensed, and regulated market. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Patty Lanier.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Patty Lanier. I'm owner with my husband, Ray Lanier of Noble Gardens. And we are one of the smaller farms here in Lake County. We're just operating with 5,000 square feet of permitted cultivation. And, you know, for us, from our perspective, the state tax is probably the most prohibitive of all of the taxes, right alongside the square footage tax here in the county, which I know is another item. But at the state level, you know, Prop 64 allows for a suspension. I think that it would benefit everyone who operates within the county of Lake at this time to at least suspend and revisit how cannabis can be more fairly and appropriately taxed, because right now, like Michael said right before me, it is prohibitive. And when you have a situation where a farm is growing, you know, if say for instance, if I have 500 pounds of finished flower that I'm going to put out into the marketplace, I am going to pay $75,000 in taxes on that 500 pounds of product before it leaves, at the time that it leaves the farm. That is assessed by a distributor and paid to the state by the distributor at the time that my flower is sold. $75,000 leaves Lake County and is no longer available for me to hire staff. Think about that. 500 pounds is almost nothing in the marketplace. That we are a small operator. So if for us, $75,000 is out of Lake County in the hands of the state is operating with a huge tax surplus right now. The state is not hurting for money. Lake County is. And additionally, the cannabis industry is not on the verge of collapse. It has collapsed. I haven't spoken with any farms at this point in time who have sold any of their product. I can't even really fully finish my harvest because I don't have any money to pay anyone. And I'm afraid to finish my harvest because last year's product didn't even sell. And I already paid to have that processed. So I'm sitting on product, looking at it, uncertain of what I even have available to enter the marketplace with, because I can't even fully process it because I don't have the money. Because last year, the marketplace crashed. So I'm really hopeful that Lake County can continue to forge forward and be a leader in the cannabis industry. We were just featured in the Press Democrat. I don't know how many of the board members read the Press Democrat's assessment. Bill Swindler wrote an article
3 minutes if you
about
could wrap
Lake
it up.
County being a mecca for cannabis in the county. I'm sorry to go over my time. We are being touted as the best place for cannabis in the state. Please continue to be a leader, but continue to represent us.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next speaker, Sean Connell.
Yes, thank you, Board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I want to first start by thanking Ms. Hutchinson and Mr. Sullivan. I would like to bring attention to everyone involved that when we are uploading documents to the board, these are public documents, and naming them things like getting in front of cultivator pressure on the BOS definitely doesn't exactly inspire a lot of hope that this board and this county government has our best interests at heart. So I want to start there. And then, you know, I think you've heard a lot that this is about the state tax reform and the resolution of Lake County signing on to this resolution that has been circulated by a majority of the counties that surround us for at least the last year. I'm reading in this resolution, this has been on the state's mind, on the district attorney's mind, on everyone's mind since 2018. And yet today, here we are at Lake County Board talking about whether or not we want to sign on with this because it says to repeal and eliminate the cultivation tax. And we're talking about whether or not we're going to be able to sustain our benefits from the state government. We're not LA, as the sheriff has pointed out. We're not San Francisco. We don't have the population count to get that level of attraction from the state. So I think what we definitely do need to do is we need to align ourselves with partnerships that mimic our situation that we have here in Lake County. That would be signing on with the other counties, Humboldt, Mendocino, Sonoma, Trinity, Glenn, Yolo. A lot of these counties are already petitioning the state. 2 weeks ago, there was a protest held on the board at the state capitol. And this board didn't bring anything ahead of that, as if they were out of touch with reality. The state of California set forth to establish a legal, well-regulated marketplace. That single statement is the intent in which everyone was expected to follow. And we have lost sight of that in developing regulations. The state imposes a tax of $9.25 per ounce of flower, $150. With an average going rate of $500 pounds, that cultivator loses over 30% of their market value. For most agricultural places, which Lake County happens to be home of agriculture, we all know that 150 to 200% in profit gives us the ability to stare next year down with confidence that we will be able to contribute and continue our way of life. The county has been sought after to cultivate due to its established permitting process, it's pretty clear, and its availability of lands. By signing on to this resolution, you're strengthening your commitment to a legal, well-regulated marketplace, and you're providing the industry with the backing and power of Lake County government. The cannabis program is expected to bring in, according to your budget, over $10 million in tax revenue.
Your 3 minutes, if you could wrap it up.
Absolutely. I want to say thank you for bringing this forward. I want to see this board sign on wholeheartedly with this resolution and join the multiple other counties fighting the state for imposing regulations that are going to destroy its industry. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you at the next one.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next person, Sam De La Paz. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hello, Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for hearing our public comment today. My name is Sam De La Paz. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager at 421 Group, cannabis consultancy based here in California. We're based out of Sebastopol, California. I'm also the Vice President of Hessel Farmers Grange, who has rallied the support of the California State Grange. I also spoke on the steps of the Capitol this last week, or I think that was a week before actually. But it is very important and imperative that we move collectively as local jurisdictions to push on the state for tax reform. I know that there are tax dollars going to some very important places, but these tax dollars will cease completely if we continue to snuff out the legitimate market and the operators who have stepped up to the plate, trying to do the right thing, trying to legitimize and be above board operators. And many of them don't know if it's worth transitioning or if it's even possible to keep operational with the looming tax structures that be. And I understand it's a hard hit on the county. I understand it's a hard hit, to expect this money and then have it start to come in and then not have it. But it will disappear completely if we are not very, very diligent in, again, moving together to push on the governor and the state for tax reform, for prioritizing equity applicants, landholders that are losing their generational properties and their livelihoods, their investments. This is a major issue. I call it, borderlining a human rights issue at this point. We cannot allow the big operators, that have been allowed in the state of California with the lifting of the 1 acre cap to come in and completely squelch out the existing market. Because what that does is that drives the illicit market further underground. And that creates a very, very trying experience for our local law enforcement and for all of our county staff. I just want to urge this emphasis because also I know that local county staff in all counties and all jurisdictions need the support of funds that can and will come and support from the state in moving applicants through the permitting process. This is incredibly important. That is everything that I would really like to emphasize. Again, we have rallied the support of the California State Grange with 5,000 membership, the oldest agricultural organization in the state of California. And they stand next to the fact that this is the only crop that has ever been levied a cultivation tax. It's unacceptable. And I really urge Lake County to support these efforts. Thank you.
Go to the next person, Sarah Bodner. If you can start with your name, you have 3 minutes.
Kill that.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. This is Sarah Bodner. I'm policy advisor to the Lake County Cannabis Alliance, and I want to begin by thanking the board and staff for bringing forward this critical resolution. I think this is about recognizing that the taxation structure that was set out when Prop 64 was adopted just doesn't work anymore. The world has changed, the industry has changed, the reality of cannabis farming has changed dramatically, and it's time that policy changes as well. The Lake County Cannabis Alliance would urge you to pass and accept the resolution as written, simply to send a clear message to the state, joined by many jurisdictions across the state, that they need to rethink it. The governor in his budget has signaled a willingness to look at tax reform, and we have local legislators lined up in droves across the state, recognizing that the old tax structure is actually one of the main obstacles in participation in the legal market in cities and counties across California. We've already seen this tax resolution adopted by the counties of Mendocino, Calaveras, Monterey, and today by Santa Cruz and Alameda. And it's also been adopted by the cities of Rio Dell and Oakland and Desert Hot Springs, and I'm sure there are more. And what this is about is really asking the state legislators to go back to the drawing board and come back with something that will work so that money can continue to be generated by this industry for the people of California, and so that we can actually pay our local taxes. Because where we stand now is not a question of, losing this tax revenue because we're going to suspend it, but losing any future tax revenue because there will be no industry left. Thank you so much for your consideration and for taking this up, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Move on to the next person, Crystal Thomas. You have 3 minutes. If you could start with your name.
Hi, I am Crystal Thomas, and I am in Lower Lake with our farm, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for
You must have a couple
actually
different-
hearing.
There's an echo.
Can you hear
so I
me
don't know if
now?
You have two things going.
Is that better?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to take a moment and just say thank you for hearing us speak to possibly reduce the tax. I do understand that an elimination is something that would really change the industry, but a reduction at this time to allow us to continue to put our best out there for the industry and to make it possible for this industry to stay afloat. So thank you very much for talking about this tax reform.
I'm going to go to the next person, Jessica Penner. You can start with your name and you have 3 minutes.
Unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to let me speak. Thank you also for introducing the resolution to suspend or eliminate the state cultivation tax. As a farmer at Ghost Dance, I have been in the county for 12 years, and as a cultivator, this is the first year that I have not been able to pay my bills and to get through. So I do appreciate you guys taking this into consideration. For myself and all the farmers out there, we really need this to survive and keep bringing money to the county. Thank you so very much.
Okay, Ryan Durham.
Hello, board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I would like to, my name's Ryan Durham, and I'm with Lower Lake Organics. It's a small family-owned farm. And I'd like to echo the statements of other people who came up there and said that, especially the small, local family-owned farms are suffering disproportionately at this time. And I want to implore you guys to take action on this resolution and suspend or eliminate the state tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Blair, you have 3 minutes. If you could start with your name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could speak a little louder.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, and my name is Blair Gue. I'm a partner at Rockaway Law Group, which is a firm that assists predominantly cannabis companies in the regulated cannabis market. And I want to thank Chair Crandall, the board, and staff for having this item on the agenda today. I ask that you execute the proposed resolution urging the governor and the California legislature to eliminate or suspend the state cultivation tax and work to reform cannabis policy and its taxing structure on a state level. If you vote to execute the proposed resolution today, you will be joining, as you've heard from many other people, many other localities such as Sonoma County, Santa Cruz, Mendocino, Calaveras County, Monterey County, City of Rio Dell, Oakland, and the list goes on, who adopted similar resolutions urging the government to take, or the state to take such action. The need for state cannabis tax reform is undisputed throughout the industry, whether it's legal professionals, operators, even people on the state legislature understand that. And that's why we've had so much action surrounding state taxes lately and for the last year. The industry has been turned on its head, and more operators are being forced to close their doors due to their inability to pay taxes. And as you've heard today, this issue is even pushing operators that have been legally operating into the illicit market just so that they can survive. So realistically, this isn't an issue of cultivators not wanting to pay any taxes. Nobody's coming forward and saying, we never want to pay taxes again, please get rid of all the taxes. This is an issue of saying we need to go back to the drawing table, the drawing board, get the tax issue corrected, given the status of the market today, so that there can be an industry moving forward tomorrow and next year, so that, the sheriff's department and all of these other agencies that are getting funds through these tax dollars will have the opportunity to get tax dollar funds in the future. Because if this isn't an issue that is addressed quickly, the industry will fail and nobody will be getting any tax money from cultivators or other industry operators. So executing the proposed resolution is a great and necessary first step that the county can take to reforming cannabis tax policies that directly impact cultivators in Lake County. And so we ask that you do so without delay. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, is it Belch? You can start with your name and you have 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, this is actually Jennifer Smith. I'm on somebody else's computer. This is Jennifer Smith, president of the Lake County Cannabis Alliance. We represent over 60 licensed cannabis companies in Lake County. I agree this ask from the state is not perfect. We have to start somewhere. That somewhere begins with municipalities across the state communicating to the legislature with one singular and aligned voice. That is what we're trying to accomplish with this item today. This resolution is that aligned voice. A resolution of any sort to the state saying, we agree there needs to be some reformation of the taxes is an aligned voice, and that's what we're trying to accomplish with this. We have been bringing this up since November with leadership of this county and with leadership of the state since the CDTFA announced the tax increase. It's imperative to acknowledge cannabis is the only agricultural commodity to be taxed at the production level. We're the only industry to pay excessively for the privilege to plant. That flat tax is regressive, it's punitive. And I think if you thought about any other industry that was charged an excise tax that became 50% of their gross proceeds, that industry would be supported by the community. Because at some point, we all need to acknowledge that we give back to the community. If we cannot pay our state taxes, we can't pay our local taxes, we won't be in business. So while you might not think this is a local issue, this is, because it is part of the overall business fees and taxes and structures that we have to pay. And if there are farms shutting their doors already, and there's more to come, there are farms that aren't going to cultivate in Lake County next year. They've already announced it. There are farms that no longer have tenants. There are farms that have already surrendered their state licenses. This is the 11th hour, and it's not brought to you intentionally in the 11th hour. We have been asking for conversations for over 2 months now. And so I appreciate that we're finally at this point. So I am confident and hopeful that you'll find a resolution that you can all agree to and put forward to the state so that Lake County's voice is heard and that the state hears, or their state leadership hears, Lake County acknowledges there's a problem and we have their support in changing this. To put these numbers into perspective, in 1 year, taxes, fees, and licenses have gone from 33% of my costs to 72% of my gross proceeds. That's a big change. And so we're asking you as an industry to support a resolution to the state that says, yes, tax reform needs to happen. And that's what we're asking for today. And that's what I hope that this board can come to resolution and find. Thank you.
Thank you. Nara, you have 3 minutes.
Hi there, Nara Dalbaka, resident of District 1. I'm also a partner at the Milo Group of California. We work with cannabis industry members of every size and every type up and down the supply chain all over the state of California. I'm really proud to live in Lake County. And I will say that Lake County, though, is one of the only jurisdictions that did not put this resolution on their consent calendar, particularly of the production counties, who are seeing farms on the ground suffer, and have been seeing this for the last year and a half, as the price of cannabis has fallen. So I stand behind the comments from farmers who have lived here and are cultivating here. Cannabis, suspending the state cultivation tax, which is what this resolution is asking the state to do, does not stop the taxes on cannabis. These taxes are above and beyond already the regular costs of doing business in California, which I think any small business owner will say is already very high. Cannabis then, in addition to the state cultivation tax, is also taxed, has an excise tax on top of that. So cannabis products are taxed at every point down the supply chain, leading just a pound of flour to go from that 500 pounds it was last year to $7,500 by the time a customer walks out of a dispensary and pays the local tax on it. No cannabis businesses are making money off of this. The state counties are the only ones making money. And what you're going to have is a major collapse of this entire industry, and I'm seeing it. Our clients are laying people off. These are people who get some of the highest wages and best benefits of any industry in California who are losing their jobs. There are capital firms circling California right now looking to pick up distressed assets from California cannabis businesses. Those distressed assets are your residents, are your citizens, are the people who are struggling on the ground, who are trying to be legal cannabis operators in the state of California. And we're all learning how to do this. So all we're asking is that that the counties step up with some of the other counties in the state for major cannabis producers and ask the state to fix the regressive tax structure that they set up that is crushing the legal cannabis industry. We're not the ones on this call today. We're the ones doing the lake and stream bed alteration permits. We're not the ones diverting. We aren't the ones costing the environment and human trafficking. We aren't causing it. We're the ones out there trying to help it, and yet we're the ones paying for all of it. So.
Thank you. We'll move to Ray.
Hello?
Yes, if you could start with your name and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Ray Lanier, and I am the co-owner of Noble Gardens with my wife, Patty Lanier. And everybody else is, first of all, thank you for hearing us. I really appreciate having a voice to be able to have some possible impact on our destiny as a small farm. Everyone else has eloquently stated the situation, and I only have a please help. We are begging for mercy to add, and that's it. I have really nothing else to say. Just please help. Please have mercy. We are suffering. And that's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Craig.
Hello, my name is Craig Litwin. I am the CEO of 421 Group. We're a California cannabis consultancy. We've been doing work in permitting, community outreach for the last 5 years. And before that, I worked in the industry as a consultant on my own. And before that, for 8 years, I served on the Sebastopol City Council. And I had the honor of co-authoring our first dispensary ordinance. So I've been in this for the long haul and watched how it's changed over the years. And I've never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, the growers across the state are being raked over the coals. It's absolutely devastating. Anything you can do, including passing this resolution and providing it to the state, creating some urgency for action to suspend these taxes, anything that you can do to add weight to this is imperative. You know, when you look at the benefits of the jobs, the careers that are being formed, the fact that people have incomes, they can spend that money, there's sales tax being generated. There are all sorts of multipliers when you keep a robust local economy in place. And to watch it happen, not just in Lake, but in Sonoma County and Mendocino County, all over the state, just be destroyed. You know, we're going to see that long-term ill effect of that multiplier disappearing. So I'd urge you to pass the resolution. I'd urge you to form a committee to work with each other, to agendize this, to discuss what else you can do, to bring this to CSAC, to talk to the other county supervisors and work to get something even stronger at the state level. Anything you can do. Thank you again for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any new hands in the Zoom room. Is there anybody that has not had a chance to speak in the boardroom that wishes to speak on this item? See no movement, then I will bring it back to the board. Supervisor Pyska.
Yeah, so we definitely understand that this is an issue. I think nobody, I think everybody understands how critical this is. My concern with the resolution, it doesn't reflect our needs, like Supervisor Sabatier brought up. When we just received $2 million from the state from the cultivation tax to help with the very processing that we have, over 200 applicants still in our queue. And we'll be reporting on that in a couple of weeks. So I did make a couple of changes to the resolution, and I think that can be shared. Supervisor Sabatier, you touched on public safety, and the sheriff did as well. And I think we could probably expand on that in this draft. But this is our opportunity to share all of our needs. And I think that that's something that we need to move forward with the resolution.
Could you read something that you've changed? Because it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Can you read that, or do you want me to make that bigger?
Can you make it bigger?
I can't read it.
Give me a second.
And we got to scroll down too.
All right, is that readable now?
Yes.
Okay, Supervisor, do you want to direct me to a paragraph?
Yeah, scroll down.
Okay.
It's highlighted in yellow, I think. Oh, it's in red.
I'm not sure it's
Yeah,
highlighted.
keep going. It's down at the bottom of the page.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So here it says, whereas the state of California has awarded multiple grants to the County of Lake funded by state cannabis taxes, including $2.1 million to the County of Lake through a local jurisdiction assistance grant, as well as additional funding through the Cannabis Equity Grant and the Public Health and Safety Grant Program. And I think that just really recognizes that our reliance on this tax. I do agree that it needs to be reformed, and so if you scroll down a little bit, I had the word reform added there.
Yes.
So those are the changes that I've made, and I don't know, Supervisor Sabatier, if you have more thoughts or any of the other board members have thoughts?
Supervisor Sabatier?
I don't mind those changes at all, but I think the important stuff is in the now therefore be it resolved. I think everything else is just a summary of things that have occurred. I think it's all about the ask. I think that the ask should say, I personally would rather it say reduce, but I think we are very much seeing that in the wordage it says eliminate. and others are asking for suspension, which is part of Prop 64. I think reduce is my preference, but I'm okay if it says suspension. But in my opinion, and actually I'm not okay with suspension, because if you suspend, it's not coming back. That's just my opinion. I think that once you suspend or eliminate, there is no way it's coming back. And I see this, I'm gonna upset a lot of people with some of the comments that I'm gonna make. This is a sin tax. We are not growing food here. And so I think that a tax is good. Should we be taxing wines? In my personal opinion, wine grapes are exactly made for that. Wine, same thing. I'd love to see that discussion come to the board at one point or another. In Napa County, it's $15 per acre for growing wine grapes. I think it's a vast difference as to what cannabis is paying versus $15 an acre, but I think it's a conversation that should be had, because it is a sin tax. And we should not, I don't mean to use your words, but I think that reliance is not the right word, because I don't want to rely on a sin tax. That means I want people to go ahead and participate in it. If it goes away, it goes away. And I don't think that we should be relying on it. I think it's useful while it's there. But I want to see enhanced law enforcement tools to reduce illicit grows, because there are laws that prohibit us, not prohibit us, but we can go catch anybody we want now. But what are the consequences? That's what's making it really difficult for law enforcement to make a difference. I also want to eliminate, let's be real, that the legal market has not gotten rid of the illegal market. And so to restate that is being blinded to the fact that the legal market has blossomed at the same time that the legal market has come into play. And it's not because the legal market is there, it's because the laws have changed that prohibits us from really having the consequences for those that grow illegally. And I think the word sustainable taxation needs to be in there. A flat tax is ridiculous. It does not, we have no crystal ball that can predict where the market is going to go. Some people believe that it might bounce back. I don't think it's going to bounce back to anything close to what it used to be. And my opinion is, I think that it's going to continue to go down. And also, I have no problems. My personal opinion is, if it keeps going down, hopefully eventually that gets rid of the illicit grow. And I think farmers are going to have to innovate and figure out how to lower their threshold or their overhead on a per pound basis in order to be able to continue to stay in that market. Innovation is going to have to be part of the future of this industry, because it's difficult to continue at the price that it's at. But I think we need, my personal opinion is reduce, not suspend, but definitely get rid of eliminate. I think that's not the right term. And we have to request for enhanced tools for our law enforcement to actually make a difference in the illicit grow that's happening here in Lake County. And a sustainable tax for the industry is what I would ask. And I think that I don't have the exact wordage of what it needs to be, but I would request that we set this aside and bring it back up later on and see if maybe we can take an extra long lunch and ask council to utilize some of those terms and some of those comments made to come back to us with, it's just a paragraph, so it shouldn't take a huge amount of time. But I would like to see that be added in there before it comes to approval. And I think we have time today to be able to do that.
Supervisor Pyska?
Oh.
Yeah, well, I would agree with those suggestions on the reduce, not eliminate the cultivation tax. So, yeah, I'm definitely in favor of that, obviously. And ultimately, it's going to be a challenge, obviously. I don't think it was intended to, harm the businesses the way it is now, so it definitely needs to be looked at the state level. But I also want to think, long-term here. I know we're talking about local, I know we're talking about state. But the problem with this industry, until the federal government takes it off the Schedule I narcotic, it's going to be challenging. No matter what we do, we're going to be back at the table here. So I'd like to encourage the industry, who needs to have that fight at the federal government level, of making those changes. And that's big. That's long-sighted, for the industry to keep establishing itself. I know it may never happen, but that's the fight that needs to be had at the federal level to help this thing move forward. And that is That's the real fight. All this other stuff will fall in line once that happens, so I want to say that. If you're going to look at it for long-term and you want to be in this industry, that's where the fight is. So willing to support some of those changes for the industry and agree with bringing it back today, because I would like to be able to get something on the governor's desk and in their hands to understand, what we're going through here at the local level. So those are my thoughts.
Chair Crandall, did you have anything to add to this?
Yes, thank you. I didn't know if Supervisor Pyska had something, because I know she was going to talk and then Supervisor Simon did, but it's okay, I'll go. I agree with changes and I want to get something done as well. I'd just like to highlight some things. I was on the Planning Commission when a lot of this was formed by the previous Board of Supervisors, and I think, of course, Vice Chair Scott, or right now you're the chair, and Supervisor Simon were a part of crafting a lot of these initially, not these, but just a lot of being a part of initiating this when it was voted into legislation. And so a lot of the folks that are trying to be a part of this program, in essence, sometimes are demonized by the illicit market. And I just... these folks, I remember talking about these in great lengths. These chambers were full of people, and one of the main things that was discussed was the fact that, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but was we wanted to not only bring forth what the voters voted for, but also ensure that we stop the illegal grows, illicit market. That was the main thing. I want to make sure there's a balance to that, and I don't want to have something done immaturely, like let's just do whatever just because I like that we're going to make some changes, and I'm willing to do that. So sorry for the long-winded response.
Thank you. I definitely agree with the changes, and I would like for us to bring that back today if possible. Anita.
Madam Chair, if I understand, I can offer at least an idea of what you're suggesting and then fine tune it. So now therefore be it resolved that the Lake County Board of Supervisors strongly urges Governor Newsom and the California legislature to immediately reduce the cultivation taxes and to establish a sustainable tax system for cannabis cultivation in the state of California. Be it further resolved that the Lake County Board of Supervisors strongly requests and urges Governor Newsom and the Lake County Legislature to provide enhanced and expanded financial resources to county law enforcement to address illegal cannabis grows. Does that do it?
And I would say that the financial resource is not necessarily, I think it definitely would help. The issue is more so than reviewing the legal consequences of those that are taking part in it. It's a slap on the wrist right now, and they're right back a month later with a brand new grow, as we've been seeing and hearing from people in Spring Valley, but it's countywide. And so that's what I'm looking for is we need better legal ramifications for those who are not opting to join into the legal market.
Simply adding to that sentence then, and to strengthen the enforcement
Mechanisms?
Mechanisms, very good. Mechanisms available to local law enforcement to combat illegal growth.
And may I ask, are we also keeping the changes that Supervisor Pyska recommended as well, that she showed?
I agree.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Got some head nods.
The additional whereas?
Yes. And then Supervisor Simon, was there something you wanted to add?
Just a final comment that I do. Supervisor Sabatier brought up a good comment about, all ag in the vineyards, about the tax per acre on that. Our neighbors do that. We have resources being used, and it's something, and I know it's not a popular comment, just as Supervisor Sabatier said, but it's a reality, a conversation we do need to have at this board.
If your board is all right with those changes as read into the record by both myself and your CAO, you can approve it subject to those amendments right now if you like.
And if you're inclined to do that, I want to make sure Mr. Sullivan got it and is confident in the rewrite he would be doing. Any questions, Patrick?
No, I believe we could make those changes, so that's easy enough to do.
Thank you.
I have it written down too.
Okay,
Sounded good to me.
Yep. I'll offer the resolution as amended.
As amended. The resolution's been offered. Johanna, if you could please call roll.
Sorry. Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Scott.
Aye.